going to be talking about ancillary health and a lot of the things that are going on with the Resident Council recently. And we're going to start talking about the fact of what's been happening with the Resident Council. And we have with us this morning Betty Chrisman, who is the president of the Resident Council, as well as having Natalie Johnson, who is the outpatient manager of outpatient rehab, and Don Webb, who is the chair of the Ancillary Health Committee for the Resident Council. And we're glad to have all of you.
Thank you.
Betty, what's happening recently with the council? There's just been a few meetings that you've had, right?
Just a few. It's been a very busy week and a half. I tell you, I get up in the morning and I don't know what day it is, so I've got to check my calendar first, or my phone, that's what you rely on. But the one thing I wanted to mention while we're talking health issues here is the South Region Resident Council Conference that we went to on Wednesday, the 17th of April, just a week ago.
And South Region means what?
It's the 5 Erickson communities that are in Maryland and Virginia. They're ourselves, Green Spring, Ashby Ponds, Charlestown, Oak Crest, and Riderwood. Right. And this conference was held this year at Oak Crest, and it was very interesting. The one thing we really gained at Oak Crest that I think will be of interest to all the residents is the fact that they had repositioning done about a year ago.
Right.
And so we saw what their new area looks like.
And I understand it is absolutely gorgeous.
Oh, it's beautiful. It really is. We had videos taken, we took a lot of still photos, and we're going to have those at either a town hall or a coffee with the executive team or something, so that the residents will be able to see what it looks like.
Wonderful.
The color scheme they have there is what we're going to get here. The furniture is very similar to what we will get, and we just thoroughly enjoyed looking at that new look.
That's great.
So I think it's going to be wonderful here.
And it's interesting that we're getting the same things that they've got at Oak Crest, being the fact that they were our sponsor, it being Green Spring's sponsor when Green Spring was built, and much of the information the Resident Council was built on came out of Oak Crest's Resident Council.
That's right. Yeah.
So,
It was a very, very good meeting. What I want to talk about primarily, though, is one of the discussion groups that we had. We had 3 discussion groups in the afternoon, and then a panel discussion in these separate areas in the morning. And the 3 areas we talked about were information technology, finance and the economy, and the third one was health services. And Dr. Narrett, who is the Chief Medical Officer for Erickson Living, led those discussions, and 4 of our residents attended those. Deanna DeMember was the liaison. Ira Dolish, who's chair of the Medical Center Committee. Peggy Patterson, who's the liaison to that also, and Barbara Hawkins were in attendance. So we had some real expertise that was at at those sessions.
Very good.
And Dr. Narrett, as I said, is the chief medical officer, and he focused the day-to-day impact on healthcare of residents. That was his primary focus on the meeting. He says he doesn't consider the latest technology as something important, but he does want to talk about what they're planning to do with, the residents. The primary goal, as he stated it, for Erickson Healthcare is high-quality, integrated healthcare and value for price paid.
Okay.
And he noted that visits with in-house Erickson doctors are for 30 minutes. And that's vice the 15 minutes.
Exactly.
That is common in most commercial practices. So we get more attention by our doctors, which I think is very, very good. What is planned for the end of this year? The residents will be able to access the patient portal via MyErickson. So once MyErickson is up and running, that will be there. You will need a separate password for that portal, but you will be able to get it from the MyErickson website that will be on our phones and our technical.
All our electronics.
Yes, all of our electronics. Each medical center is developing goals in 4 areas: resident satisfaction, financial performance, employee engagement, and quality. And when a medical center meets all those goals in a calendar year, they will receive what they're calling a Care Bear Award. And this is not an award for an individual, but an award for the clinic itself. And it just shows the fact that the employees are working together to meet the 4 goals that they have set.
So there'll be a Care Bear within the clinic, huh?
Yes, so
Wonderful.
that is, that's a new initiative for them. And as we are well aware, recruiting is difficult.
Yes.
It's a challenge, especially for the medical centers, because of the specialists in healthcare and the credentials that they all need. It's often difficult to find the right person to fill a vacancy. And Erickson works with 3 to 4 recruiting firms, as well as doing their own recruiting, to find qualified candidates for positions that we have open. Erickson is also looking outside the box to find doctors and to compensate them properly. They're committed to hiring good doctors and are always on the lookout for good doctors to kind of keep a list, in the back drawer, if you will. Doctors that are hired are salaried, they're not hourly employees, and Erickson covers their malpractice insurance, which is something that's important, because that could be
it gets expensive.
A very expensive insurance to have. Now to talk a little bit about what we do here with Green Spring. Every morning there is what they call a huddle. And a lot of people don't know about this. It's not a huddle like it is on a football team, but it's a group of Erickson employees that gets together to look at improvements in the medical care and the resident care that's given. The staff that attend the huddles include security, the neighborhood resident service coordinators, or the social workers as we know them, the medical center social work provider who works in the medical center herself, the doctors, medical care administrator, family members, and others that are needed. And Brad Andrus, our associate executive director, also sits in on those, as does Chandra when she has the time.
Good.
What they discuss is what transpired from the last huddle to that previous one. So it's what's happened during the day and overnight. And what they're especially focusing on are things like falls that get reported, pull cord events. When someone pulls the cord, security has a log of that, so they know exactly who has pulled it, what kind of response they've had to make, etc. They talk about emergencies that require the ambulance to come and medical assistance. And then they look at what is the best care for the residents that were involved. In particular, they're looking at reoccurring events, residents who continually are falling, reports of unusual behavior, incidents that residents report to the social workers because they feel there's a problem with a particular resident. And when they have recurring incidents with a single resident, that's when they call in the family and huddle with the family, the social worker, and the medical staff to decide what they need to do. Often it's, do they just need some medical assistance for a short period of time each day? Is it time to think about moving them to assisted living? So it's a very important meeting, and they're gaining an awful lot of information from it. And I think it's been very, very beneficial to us.
It sounds like the conference was well worth it.
It was very well worth it. It really was. I want to just give you a couple statistics that they provided at the conference that I wasn't aware of, and it really impresses on me how good our medical care is here at Green Spring. Emergency room visits were discussed. Overall, Erickson independent living communities have an average of 500 emergency room visits by residents per year. Green Springs independent average is 396.
Oh, wonderful.
So we're
We're below
we're below the Green Spring average for that.
I mean, the Erickson average, yeah.
Yes. And for assisted living and memory care, our average is below average, but we don't know what that figure was given because it wasn't given. So we can be very proud of the fact that even though we see the ambulance here often, it doesn't always require someone being taken to the emergency room. The average return on hospital care within 30 days after being discharged, and this is reported by Medicare, the average is 1 resident in 6 returns to the hospital within 30 days of discharge.
Okay.
For the last 4 years, Erickson Advantage has had 1 in 20 as their ratio. So that's a tremendous, tremendous, discharge rate right there. And then one last thing, Erickson Living Advantage, which is the medical insurance program that Erickson sponsors, has been a 5-star rated for the past 2 years.
Tremendous.
And this is the first program to be given that rating from the insurance underwriters. So I think Erickson is extremely proud of that, and we should be proud too, because a lot of our residents use that insurance coverage.
Oh, very good.
Okay.
Very good.
And that's about it.
Wonderful information, and you're going to be presenting more of this with resident council and various meetings,
we will.
right?
Yeah.
Very good.
And I think Chandra is also planning on doing a lot of this. She has started a new initiative called 7 Dimensions of Wellness, and it focuses on residents embracing the wellness concept. And there are 7 different categories in there: emotional, spiritual, environmental, physical, occupation, intellectual, and social. And every month this year they will be highlighting one of those areas and talk about, the wellness of the residents at the coffees, at various other forums throughout.
Well, And one of the ways that we can stay well is by going to Ancillary Health to rehab, right?
Yes.
If we need it.
Absolutely.
Is that right?
Absolutely.
Yes.
So, Natalie, you have been here for about 5 years, right?
Yes, sir.
And what do you do in rehab?
So I personally am a physical therapist, but in the rehab department, we provide physical, occupational, and speech therapy.
Okay.
So the difference in a nutshell, quickly, physical therapy, we look at walking, people's gait or ambulation, balance, lower extremity strengthening, and pain. We do a lot of back pain, neck pain, shoulder pain. Occupational.
Relieving of it.
Yes. Well, we do have a reputation. Yes, if someone comes in with pain.
Right.
Occupational therapist looks a little bit more at the upper extremities, particularly hands, and they look at what we call activities of daily living. Right. So things that you need to do every day. People think occupation, well, I don't work anymore. Most people here are retired. But what you do every day, whether it's getting dressed, whether it's taking care of your home, those are what your occupation is. Right. And speech therapy looks at, they can address swallowing issues, and they also look at cognition. Okay. So if someone's noticing a little problems with memory or processing things, they have tools to assist with that.
Okay. So if individuals find that they need help when they're eating, and to have someone help them with it, they should be seeing you guys, right? Right.
So it could be a swallowing issue, which our speech therapist could address, but it also could be sometimes people have problems with hand strength or dexterity, so holding the utensil or opening things, so they're modifying what they're eating because they can't open packages at home, things like that. Then an occupational therapist could help with that. Okay. So there's different ways that we can look in different services that different therapies provide.
Yeah, that's wonderful. How often does someone come to see you?
So first and foremost, to come see a therapist, you need a doctor's order.
Okay.
Any doctor, doesn't have to be a particular doctor. Anyone that can write a prescription can write a prescription for therapy. So that's the first step. After you have that prescription, you call us. Our rehab tech is one who will answer the phone and schedule that initial evaluation. Okay. It's about an hour and a half. We spent a lot of time talking with you, trying to find out, you know, the number one question is, what are you not able to do now that you feel like you could do before, or not doing now that you would like to be able to do? And then we have several assessments that we perform. We call them objective measures, which means they've been studied and you get a concrete number. And so therefore we can do that test again later to see improvement. After the evaluation is completed, then the recommendation of how many times a week that we recommend you come. We tell our residents it's like a prescription. So if I tell you that I need to see you 2 times a week, for 4 weeks, that is my prescription for you, and it's a commitment to come. If you miss sessions here and there that I can't, you know, I think you would have less chance of getting those goals that we want. So it is a commitment. But we typically see people 2 to 3 times a week.
Okay. Very, very good. And somebody who's seen you, I know, is sitting next to you. and Don, you've visited rehab, haven't you?
I visited rehab. I'm currently still doing rehab.
Oh, okay.
Trying to learn how to walk.
All right. Well, you and I have visited them several times. I have had a couple of situations with joints and various joints. I think every joint I have has had treatment since I've lived here 11 years. But great department.
Not the same joint you went to when you were younger.
Not the same joint. But you're here because you're chair of the Ancillary Health Committee, all right?
Right.
And you've got something coming up today?
Today we have 2 educational forums going on from 1 to 3 and from 7:30 to 7 to 9 p.m. It's 1:30 to 3:30.
1:30 to 3:30.
We've changed the times a couple of times, that's why I've forgotten them.
And what are they?
Okay, the forums are going to be discussing what we call ancillary health, which Erickson will be changing the name to home care next year. Be a little more understandable. The 2 major components of that are home care and home support.
Okay.
And there's a difference in the way they're paid for. Home care is normally, as Natalie was pointing out, falls under a doctor's prescription. And that's where a therapist, a nurse will come to your apartment and help you overcome. If you come directly back from the hospital, if you're not involved in rehab at Garden Ridge, you go to your apartment, they will then, just like Natalie points out, they will call you up, you get your paperwork taken care of. They come to visit you, set up appointments so that you can live better in the apartment and you can move around easier and get your lifestyle back together.
Yeah. With you going and you doing those things, there's always a goal, right? And the goal is a mutual goal between the patient and the therapist in regards to it. Can that goal be changed?
Absolutely. It's an ongoing process. I always ask a resident, what is your goal? We talk about whether I think that's feasible or not. Some people have a goal that I say, you know, this is where I think we can get to, but let's see where we go. There's different ways. We typically want to see you for 10 visits.
Okay.
On the 10th visit, it's required that we complete what's called a progress note. So we ask people to commit to those 10 visits. And then after that, let's see where we are. We decide where we need to be. Let's discharge. We decide we're making great progress. I think we can do more. Let's keep going. Or we decide, you know what, we're not really making any difference. A lot of times at that point, we recommend you go back to your doctor, especially if it's a pain issue and there's been no change. We don't see that very often, thank goodness. But yes, it's a goal that can be, that is decided on between the therapist and the resident at the beginning, and we can modify as we need to. I always tell my residents it's like an educated guess. I mean, I've been doing this for 15, 16 years now, so I kind of can guess where I think you're going to be, and we're usually pretty close with that.
That's excellent. Very, very good. Well, Don, in your forums going on today, what kind of things are you going to be talking about? Are you going to be talking about rehab?
We're going to be talking about rehab. We're going to be talking about intermissions. We're also going to be talking a little bit about money. People are always worried about how to pay for things.
Yes.
And Gary, and I've forgotten his last name, so I apologize to everybody.
With finance.
With finance in the ancillary health area. We'll be there also to discuss. We're going to have speakers, about 5 to 7 minutes from each area of healthcare. And we're also going to have individual tables so people can walk around and talk personally one-on-one if they don't want to ask questions in the big group.
And where's this big room?
The big room is going to be at the Hunters Cross Conference Center. And we've had people pre-register, and there's a few seats left available. Okay. So if they want to come today, please, you can use my name, use Natalie's name, and use Natalie's name.
Okay.
And come on down to the sessions. We will get you in. It won't be like, it's a large room, and just to invite people there, we're also going to have refreshments.
Oh, hey, it's an attraction.
That's
Okay.
what draws people, I
That's
think,
always a
more than
draw.
Oh, that's a
speakers.
draw.
It'll get Betty there for sure.
No, I'm coming this evening.
You're going this evening?
Uh-huh,
Okay.
yeah. I
Okay.
wanted to see.
Between 7 and
Between 7 and 9 p.m.,
Yeah.
Hunter's Crossing,
Yeah.
and between 1:30 and 3:30
Hunter's Crossing also.
this afternoon.
The conference center. All
Yeah,
right.
it should be good.
So we can get people there.
Yes.
We hope to. It's an educational forum. You're not going to answer all your questions. And if they don't have the answers, they will get back in touch with you.
Okay.
Good.
Are there going to be follow-ups to the forum in the near future? I mean, if someone couldn't go, I mean, is there going to be a way to
We
get
will
the
have to
information?
decide at the committee meeting.
Okay.
It's how many volunteers we have, who's able to do the work, and what types of questions come up. People can ask questions of the committee members at any time.
Okay.
We're not restrictive on that.
And how many committee members do you have?
Right now, we average between 7 and 10.
All right.
Not everybody makes every meeting.
And you meet once a month?
We meet once a month, the first Wednesday, from 2:30 to 3:30,
Okay.
Village Square, and the classroom.
Oh, okay.
I want to say education classroom.
So if they want the information, give you a call?
We're more than happy to.
Okay.
We'll take it, any of the members.
But always encourage you to go to the forums that have already been set up, right?
Right. They're there to inform people.
Okay.
They normally don't sign up for help, but they learn more about it. That's why they come. They're curious. What is it all about?
And that would help you, Natalie, wouldn't it? If people knew what's going on, had some idea about the health care they're receiving.
Yeah, I actually, I'll be speaking today to represent rehab, and I attended the one last year and represented rehab there as well. And a big thing that we talk about is what we call is the continuum of care. The different levels of care that are available here at Green Spring that residents are really just so lucky to have you have it all right here. So as Mr. Webb was saying, whether you need it in the home, whether you can come to outpatient, whether you're in Green Spring, the care is there. We have a medical center right here. So that continuing of care is something that we like to talk about, and that's what you see at the forum as all the different disciplines go by and discuss what they do.
Yes, Don.
And we will have a representative from the medical center there also. We did that last year for the first
Great.
time.
Very, very good.
That's
Well, you know,
good.
Betty was talking about the medical center and the Care Bear. I love that. They have a Care Bear award. What does the council do other than the committee in regards to the medical center? Is there anything that the council is involved in other than going through the committee?
A lot of people are just volunteers with anything that the medical center has planned. We do have a separate medical center in Garden Ridge
That's right.
committee,
Right.
which has, I guess, close to 20 members.
Wow.
And they're very active with the medical center and then also over at Garden
Garden Ridge.
Ridge. They work directly with Dr. Dar, with Crystal, the administrator, in trying to improve the care that's provided.
Good. Very,
So
very
they are
good.
very, very active.
And Dr. Dar is the medical director
Yes.
of the clinic, all right?
Yeah.
Is there anything that we should not contact the medical center about that you can think of?
Not that I can think of.
Okay. So if we have a medical issue, or we think we have a medical issue, contact the medical center, right?
Right. They can always direct you to,
Okay.
another area if that's where you need to
Okay. Very
be
good.
referred.
And Don, with rehab and ancillary health, if you have a nurse come in, if you have a physician's order, that gets reimbursed by Medicare, right?
Correct.
And if you just have support,
The home aides would normally, that's under support. They have home companions also.
okay?
to help move people around. That can be paid for, it's called private pay, but also some long-term care insurance policies help cover that.
Okay.
And that's where Gary's speaking on the finance issues this afternoon to give more information.
And so that would really be some good information for those of us that may think, we're going to need something, but we don't really feel like we're going to need a
Yes,
doctor's
yeah.
order to get what we need.
Right. One of the things, we don't have the slide here, I'm looking for,
Right.
they said they were going to send it over. We actually have a sheet that'll be handed out to everybody, running a comparison of home health and home support to show which one's private pay, which is Medicare pay, et cetera,
Good.
and answers a lot of questions on one piece of paper.
Because I always get confused between the two with the names. I mean,
Yeah.
I hear home, and that's, my mind just goes, okay, which way in regards to it. Well, that is very good, Don, and I hope you got a lot of people signed up already.
We've got between 80 and 100. I haven't heard the last number yet.
Wonderful. There's still space for other people.
Still space for other people.
Okay.
Usually our evening session is more lightly attended, so we set that up so if they want to bring they can bring family members at any time to either session. It's not just restricted to residents.
Very, very good. And Natalie, you're going to be speaking. Very good. And you're going to be telling all about rehab, right?
A lot of what I did today, just people are have a lot of questions about the 3 different kinds of therapy and what they can offer. I especially think here at Green Spring, a lot of people don't even know that we're down there. We're in Hunter's Crossing, the T-level, across from the conference center, so we're kind of hidden in the corner. So one is to let people know we're there, but a lot of people think of therapy as something I need if I'm sick.
Right.
Something happened to me, I went to the hospital, but we address far, far, far more than that.
But you're also across the street at Garden Ridge.
Yes.
That's a huge area for rehab, right?
And I think that's what a lot of people think of therapy, the Garden Ridge therapy. I went to the hospital, I need extra help therapy,
Right.
and we are one team. The therapist that you see in outpatient, the same therapist you can see over there. So we are one team. But letting people know what we also do in outpatient, the services we offer, is something that I'm very focused on accomplishing now that I'm over in outpatient.
Wonderful. Very, very good. And Betty, thank you always with all the things that the council does, all the committees. And you've got, over 100 people this year involved with different committees?
Almost 130.
Wow.
Yeah, so we increased our number this year.
Yes.
And if I can just put a plug in, we have our general session on Tuesday at 10 a.m. in Hunter's Crossing Conference Center.
And that's open to everyone?
It's open to everyone.
And everyone is encouraged?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, very, very good. Well, thank all of you for coming today, for sharing wonderful information. And we all need to stay healthy, right?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you again.